Hey, Beloit senior high school, senior junior high school. It's Mr. Flood. I was at your school back in October, I think. Yeah, I think I was there in October of last year. I know that's like eons ago. I know 6 or 8 months. What is that? 6 months, 7 months. In high school time is like 6 or 7 thousand years in like real life time. So that's okay if you don't remember me. But I'm coming back with this video, and I think I sent a video to you after I was there. I should have 3 or 4 weeks after I was at the school saying thank you. And I would say thank you again for the way that you treated me when I was there. I had an awesome time in Kansas. I've been out there several times and really had a good time. You guys were all very welcoming of me when I was in Beloit. So I've stayed in touch with Mr. Seifert and some people at your school, and he asked me if I would send out an encouraging video to you during these crazy, weird, strange, scary, unforeseen. I don't know what other adjectives I can use to describe this weird time that we're going through, this isolation. So that's the reason for this video. And if any of you remember the challenges that I gave you when I was there, they are three simple things that are so applicable right now, more now than ever. And I'll remind you, because that's what I do on videos, is I remind kids of my challenges that I gave to them. Look on the inside of people. Why? Because we're all alike on the inside. Prove that to me, Mr. Flood. Okay, I'm just like you. My family's just like you, your family. We're all susceptible to getting sick from this or anything else, right? We're all alike. We're all human. We're all alike on the inside. Great. So what does that do for me, Mr. Flood? Well, even though you should have compassion and empathy for everyone, it's a lot easier and simpler to have compassion for someone who's like you, who you know is like you. And since everybody's like you, it should give you a greater sense of compassion and empathy for people. Now more than ever, look on the inside of people and realize that they're just like you and they're going through struggles just like you are. Second challenge I gave you when I was there was to reach out, say thank you to two adults in the building. Your teachers are struggling now greatly. I guarantee you that 99.9% of the teachers in your school had never taught remotely before. Maybe a few had, I don't know. But whereas a teacher used to be able to separate their home life from their school life, like they're home, and maybe they graded tests in homes and did a little bit of work at home, but most of their work they probably did when they were in school. Now they're at home, they have a spouse, or maybe not, they have kids or pets that they have to, kids who are younger or your age or younger, that they have to help them navigate and work online with their teachers wherever they go to school. I don't know if they're in your schools. And maybe they don't have a spouse and they're a single parent, and even more burden is put on them to take care of their kids, pets. And not a lot of teachers, I mean, some do, have a room they can lock themselves in. I'm sure most of them want to have a room they can lock themselves in, a padded room where they can get away from their family to teach you. So just understand that, that they're struggling, going through this now too, trying to keep traction and work with you all online. Don't you want to be the kid when you get back to school that the teacher looks at you and says, thank you for helping me. Thank you for showing up on time. Not, physically showing up, but virtually showing up on the computer. Thank you for getting your assignments in on time. Don't you want to be that kid? Can you have fun? Absolutely. Can you have a bad day? Absolutely. Can you not show up one day? Absolutely. But realize that they are struggling to keep traction, with you. So it's so important, guys and girls, that you stay connected to your teachers during this time. And the last challenge that I gave you was no one eats alone, and show up. And I know everyone's eating alone now, or we're eating with our families. So how do we apply that challenge now, Mr. Flood? Well, I'll tell you this. People are getting sick and dying from this virus. Big time in New York, where I live. Like a lot of people, like thousands. We're losing people who are getting sick and dying. Let's not lose anybody to sadness, loneliness, isolation, and depression. Those things are not easily overcome, but there is a simple solution to begin to overcome those things, and that's by reaching out to people. Think of a kid in your school who was isolated before this pandemic. Think about how now doubly isolated they are. Maybe they only have one parent. Maybe they have no brothers and sisters, and they're just not connected. Can you be a person who reaches out? Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, a text, an email. I don't care if you send a carrier pigeon to their house. I had a teacher a couple weeks ago who emailed me, and she said, Mr. Flood, I am having a really hard time keeping my students engaged online. I teach children who are hearing impaired. I teach kids who are deaf. And she said, I'm having a hard time keeping them engaged online. And I wrote back to her, when do you think was the last time any of those kids got a handwritten letter in the mail? And she wrote back to me and she said, oh my God, I never even thought of that. And the ironic thing was, like that day, she was sending out cards to her family, like cards with her daughter. They were handwriting out, like nice greeting cards to her family to send out to her relatives. And she said it wouldn't be too difficult for me to just add a couple more cards to this or write a few letters to my students. And I know maybe writing a letter, maybe getting a letter is not a big deal to you. It is to me. I have letters that kids have written to me from 10 years ago that I love saving. It's just that physical act of putting a pen to paper and writing to someone. You could, I don't know if you could save someone's life, but you might change somebody's life by that small act of kindness, of popping a letter out. And what does it take? 5 minutes, 10 to write a letter, stamp, and an envelope, and you get their address, and you send them a letter. Something very simple. Let's not lose anybody because of sadness, loneliness, isolation, and depression. And and if you're that person, reach out to someone else. The last thing I would say to you, well, two more messages. One is I'm going to ask you a question. How do you want to come out of this isolation? I don't know, what the status is in Kansas. Our schools, I don't think we're going back. We stay a lot later than the rest of the country. Like schools in the Northeast, we're in school till the middle of June, till like the third week of June. But I don't think our kids are going back to school. I don't know what the situation is in Kansas. But how are you going to come out of this isolation? Because you can come out of this a better person, not better than anyone else, but a better version of yourself. And what I mean by that is you can work on self-improvement because you've got nothing else to do. There's no distractions like soccer, lacrosse, baseball, softball, field hockey, tennis, swimming, dancing, whatever at clubs, plays, maybe you're going to put on a play virtually. And I'm not saying that sports are a distraction. And yes, Mr. Flood, I love doing those things. Great. But you don't have those things to do. So how are you filling that time? Are you filling it by being on your phone or on the computer or on social media? I get it. No problem. That's okay. But there's a lot of other time where you can fill by self-improvement, reading more, praying more, meditating more, reaching out, forging stronger bonds with your friends and relatives, and reaching out to people who you never would have connected with had this not happened. So you can come out of this a better person. How are you going to come out of this? Worse, the same, or better? You choose. And again, it's not better than anyone else. It's just a better version of yourself. And lastly, I want to say to the seniors, Mr. Seifert, I hope I'm saying Mr. Seifert's name correctly, will do whatever is in your best interest for your health and safety and for what the community's best interest is, of course. But I grieve if you're not having a prom. I grieve if you're not having a graduation. At our high school in my town, they do something called the Final 50 days of senior year, where they do something cool every day. There's a barbecue, there's ice cream, and all kinds of stuff. So I grieve the loss of your awards ceremony and all of those things. And I'm not going to say to you, like a lot of other people already have, seniors, that, you should be grateful, people are dying, and there's a lot losing jobs and all kinds of other things. Listen, when you're 16, 18 years old, it's a big deal not to have a prom. It's a big deal not to have a graduation ceremony. It's a big deal when you're in college or high school to walk across the stage and be acknowledged and recognized for your accomplishment. I get it. But I really hope that when you look back at your life, I'm 55, and I'll tell you guys this, and any of your teachers and administrators would tell you this too. In your life, there'll be births, there'll be deaths. There'll be weddings. There'll be divorces. There'll be jobs. There'll be loss of jobs. There'll be graduations and acknowledgments, and there'll be loss of those things. You missed out on something because you were sick or something got canceled. In the grand scheme of your life, and I know this is hard to hear now when you're 17 or 18 years old, I get it. I totally get it. But in the grand scheme of your life, this will just be one more thing that you went through. And I promise you this, if you work on yourself, you'll be a better person for having gone through this. You will be able to help yourself. You will grow from this, and you'll be able to help someone down the road. Maybe even your children, if you have children someday. You'll be able to help them because you will have grown through all of this months of isolation that we are in. So I am thinking about all of you. I hope I get a chance to get back to Beloit in the nice weather, not in the summer because I wouldn't see any of you, but in the nice weather. I hope I get a chance to come back to your school in the next couple years. And seniors, I'm sure again that the administration there will do something for you, whatever they can, in some form to acknowledge the accomplishment of your graduation from high school. So please stay healthy and safe, and love you, Kansas. And I'll be thinking about all of you guys in the next couple of months, next few months, as we hopefully get out of this craziness. Have a great day, guys. Be well.